Well, there are two, of all our senses, there are two that I call the forgotten senses, and I talk about a lot, and I've written about them a lot. And that's the proprioceptive sense and the vestibular sense. And proprioception is that internal feeling of your own body. It's the way we can tell moment to moment where our feet are, where our ankles are, where our knees are, where our waist is, where our shoulders are, because we feel them internally. I can feel my shoulder because it's leaning against the couch, but if I just put it in space, I can still feel my shoulder, but not through touch, through proprioception. And the receptors for this sense are based in the joints and the muscles all through the body. And the stimulus that triggers them is to do with compression or stretching or twisting. And anything that puts pressure on a muscle or stretches it or twists it is going to send messages to the brain saying this part of your body is now in this position, or it's doing this, or it's moving that way, and now it's stopped moving and it's stationary. And this sense leaves us all the time with a sense of our bodies and where our bodies are. And for most of us, our experience of this sense not working is when something like a leg goes to sleep. You sit on a leg on the couch watching television, you jump up to go make a drink, and you've cut the circulation off to your leg, so the proprioceptive receptors in the leg are not working. And it's just temporary, but it's quite debilitating because you can't actually walk on that leg very easily because it's gone to sleep. And what you tend to do, you shake the leg, you stamp the foot, you bang the leg and you rub it. That's all proprioceptive stimulation to try and get the sensation coming back. And the big problem is if you don't feel the leg effectively, the moment you bend your ankle and you bend your knee, you can't stop bending it. So the moment your knee goes from really stiff to bent, you drop to the floor because you can't suddenly stop bending it, because you can't feel where it is. And you either have to look at it to control the amount of movement in it, or you have to straighten the leg very artificially and use it almost like a pole. And then you can walk. But anything that's going to flex and extend the joints, you're going to lose the control of it very quickly. And for this sense to work properly, you need a good range of muscle tone, like what we call normal muscle tone, where we have control over all our movements, and certain muscles can relax while others get tighter, which enables us to do that. And then the muscles that got tighter have to relax, and the ones that relaxed have to get tighter, and we can do the opposite. And it's all about those oppositions of muscles pulling, flexing, and extending. Well, if you don't feel those muscles, and if you don't feel your limbs very effectively, it's very hard to move in a controlled way. And usually because of very low muscle tone, most children with deafblindness don't feel their bodies very well. They certainly don't feel their limbs very effectively. So a lot of the self-stimulation that we see is the children trying to give themselves more proprioceptive input by putting pressure on their muscles, by stretching their muscles, by twisting their muscles. So you get a lot of body contortion. You get a lot of arms folding and these kinds of behaviors. You get quite a lot of leg postures where you sit on your legs or you cross your legs. And this is a very characteristic behavior where you bring one ankle up on the other knee, and you get massive amount of information, especially from the top leg, into your brain, telling you where your legs are. And especially, I think, for most children in this position, telling the brain that the legs are fixed. They're not moving, you're not falling, you're not going to fall, so you don't need to think about it anymore. And if you think about a limb going to sleep, it gives you a vague idea. If that's your normal state of being, you can see why it's very hard to function when you can't feel your arms and legs, especially your legs, very effectively. So why you have to adopt these postures, sometimes in extreme form, or why you have to stamp your feet and shake your hands and do all these kinds of self-stimulations that increase the proprioceptive information coming to your brain. And why do I keep talking about self-stimulation? Because I think the way a child self-stimulates tells you what their brain needs in terms of sensory input in order to function. So if a child's looking for lots of touch inputs, or lots of vision inputs, lots of sound inputs, or lots of proprioceptive inputs, they're the kinds of sensory inputs I'm going to be focusing on in my teaching and my assessment to try and get a relationship with them and get a better idea about what they can do with me interacting with them.